Hi, how are you?
Oh! Hello!
Here we are.
Oh! So we've got our flowers happening. I think the flower's bigger than my bun at the moment. It's a giant thing. We're a little bit tired tonight. We've had a big weekend. Haven't we, Renata?
We have.
We have.
We've had a big weekend.
We drove down to Bundanoon.
Hi, how are you?
Oh! Hang on.
Here we are.
I'm just going to... It's quite a delay, isn't it? We drove down to Bundanoon on Friday and stayed at a beautiful guest house. Oh my golly gosh. I've got the card here, actually. Highly recommend it. It's not haunted, but... looked after you so well.
Bundanoon Bed and Breakfast.
Yes. It's Bundanoon Lodge, it's called. And the lovely Ruth Moncrief is the owner-operator there. And, wow, she spoiled us. Oh, she really... They give you breakfast in the morning, and let me tell you, we gorged ourselves. I had a weekend of carbs. I'm carrying a lovely carb baby at this moment in time. And she baked fresh bread overnight, and then they had fresh croissants, and then they cooked bacon and eggs and everything for you, and...
And the birds came down in the morning, and there was people and puppy dogs everywhere.
Oh, you could take your puppy. Yeah. So we were just loving all the animals. It was great. Yeah. All right. So, have you waited long enough?
I don't know. Share, people. We'd love you to share with someone.
So we went from Bundanoon, then we drove down to Junee, where we stayed at Monte Cristo for the night, Australia's most haunted homestead. And the best part was that we did not have to work. Now, this was actually Chris and Brooke's idea. They're two of our volunteers. They got married just before the lockdown started, on the Saturday before it got locked down.
And we invited ourselves.
Yeah, they haven't been able to go on their honeymoon, and they've gone... it's all we're going to go to Monte Cristo. We go, that's a fantastic idea. Can we come too? And then Christy and Karen have gone, can we come too? And then Mick and Vic have rung up and said, is there any vacancies? Because we want to book in. So all of a sudden there's a whole heap of us driving down to Junee for a totally not organised thing.
No.
But it was bloody wonderful. Okay.
Someone's using lots of V's.
Oh, voila.
Mel McClay, aren't you just fantastic? Look at all of those V's.
Villain of this. Oh, wow. There's such no mere veneer of vanity. Oh, I am so impressed. Wow.
We want you back for Z, please. Or Z, depending on where you come from. Can you come back for Z?
Suzanne said she enjoyed our Monte Cristo lives. Yes, it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of information coming out in the Spirit Box session. That was really cool. And yeah, hi Justin, hi Karen and Michelle, Lorna, hi Nathan, and they're all coming on ready for the haunted vagina.
I know, right? I think we've lost a couple already.
Yes, because we're boring. We're sitting here just yakking.
Right.
Don't forget the Australian School of Ghost Hunting has its second class for the protection workshop tomorrow night at 7:30. Then we have the Australian Online Paranormal Conference happening on the 11th and 12th of July. You don't have to go anywhere. You can stay in your bums at home. And you don't have to sit down and watch it all at once. We will be starting at 10 o'clock on the Saturday morning and going through till about 5, doing the same thing on the Sunday. We have approximately 14 or 15 guests. And to buy a ticket to get into the classroom, so to speak, the private page.
The men here are just having shocks. The men are coming.
You look at the amount of men we've got on here. Hey, boys, you're ready for your haunted vaginas. You'll be pleased to know I actually do have a video of an exorcism of a haunted vagina for you to watch tonight. I didn't tell her what it was about. I just said I've got a video for you, so you're going to enjoy that.
That will be just Yes.
Best you put the kiddies away tonight.
Yeah, this is an X-rated show, please. X-rated.
Yeah, so to buy a ticket for the conference, you can pay $10, $20, $30, $40, $50, whatever you can afford. The idea is we're trying to make it accessible for as many people as possible, and half of every single ticket is going to a local, two local charities for the pigs,
Where pigs fly.
for the animals.
Where pigs fly. It's
Farm
a farm
animal
sanctuary.
Farm animal sanctuary
Farm animal
for the cows
sanctuary.
who
It's
can't
beautiful.
milk no more.
Yeah.
They've got
Otherwise, they'd be all on the chopping block, and now they can run free
I
in a
can be
paddock.
utterly happy. See what I did there?
Yeah, I saw.
Yeah. And the wombats.
Cedar Creek Wombat Hospital.
Yeah. So yes. All right. Let's get on to our topic. We're going to press the button.
So let's give this an official start for the evening. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, one and all, to the fascinating night for the letter V on our ABC of Paranormal Strangeness. And your hosts are Anne Rekovich from Oz Paratech and
Good eye.
Renata Daniel from Newcastle Ghost Tours. And we talk,
Together we are
oh yes, together we are
frightfully good.
And we are going to be talking about all things strange and spooky, or maybe two topics only. And we're up to the letter V. So my chat is going to be about vampires, and we'll talk later.
What's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box today?
I'm going to make her wait till last.
Yeah, we've got to.
Because if she goes on now, that's it.
Hi,
I'm
Erin.
done. I won't even get a word in. So, yeah. So we better start. Yep. All right. So we're going to vampires.
Well, we would have learned a lot about vampires when we went to the Haunted Bourbon Conference in New Orleans in
but we didn't.
October. So we're not going. So we'll just have to tell you all about it this
Hello,
way.
Veronica. How are you? Now, vampires was quite an interesting topic to explore, in that not everything we think of as a vampire is strictly just the vampire thing.
So it's not just sucking blood.
We have a strange way of compartmentalizing things, because we see things on TV and then we go, oh, that's the only way things can happen.
If it's on TV, it must be true.
Must be. But in actual fact, it's not. And so this whole vampire thing, the way we look at it is from the Hollywood sort of slant, and from the stories we have that are associated with the blood-sucking vampires. But in actual fact, there may be a whole history of vampires in other countries. We just don't hear about them. But strange things happen everywhere. And of course, if it happens in your backyard, it happens in everyone's backyard, no matter whether they're in Australia, England, South America, Bombay, wherever it is.
And the year before, 2018, we actually went to Transylvania and followed Count Dracula's footsteps throughout Romania.
And I heard a really great name for that today, Dracula Tourism. And the Romanians do it very, very well.
Oh, yes.
Very well. And
the Count from Sesame Street was a vampire.
yeah,
Yep.
Vlad's castle isn't really his, but never mind. Why spoil a good story? A castle is a good castle. Yeah, so worth a visit. Anyway, so we think that vampires have particular characteristics, but it may not always be so. It really depends on who you're asking, what country they're from, and what their superstitions around vampires are. So let's just check out a few. So some vampires are supposed to not cast a reflection, but yet some do. So holy water and sunlight are said to repel or kill vampires, but sometimes they don't. So the one universal truth, if you can use that word, about vampires is the draining of vital bodily fluid, blood. So one of the reasons that vampires make such successful literary figures is that they have a rich and varied history and folklore. And over the years, we've made them be someone who is a victim rather than someone who victimizes. Poor old vampire seems to be this sad, sad person who just doesn't fit into society anymore, and he's accursed. And of course, we have a lot of the romantic vampire stories now.
Are we talking about the twinkling vampires
The
and
twinkling.
sparkle and sunshine?
I know, right? Yep, so there you go. So, going back to Romania, finding a vampire isn't easy. Apparently, you don't go out with, a couple of iron nails and garlic. You need a 7-year-old boy and a white horse. So according to Romanian folklore, that's what you need to go find a vampire. So you get this 7-year-old boy and a white horse, and you release him in a cemetery. And he's the only one that can go and find your vampire in the cemetery, because we know vampires always hang out in cemeteries, don't we, Miss Anne? Because they all live in coffins under the ground, or they have to be buried in cemetery dirt. I've watched a lot of movies.
And Lost Boys too. That was a good one. Yeah.
So, creatures and these sorts of vampiric characteristics have appeared as far back as at least the ancient Greek times. So, stories were told of creatures that attacked people in their sleep and drained their bodily fluids. Tales of walking corpses that drank blood of the living and spread plague flourished in medieval Europe in times of disease. So it was never something. And remember, these people had a meager knowledge of how things actually worked. So if a plague came and hit a whole township, well, it was probably easier to say that a vampire caused it, rather than looking at some sort of infectious disease, which they really didn't understand at that point in time to be happening at all. So research from the 20th and 21st centuries has said that characteristics associated with vampires can be traced back to certain diseases such as porphyria.
Put your teeth in and have another go.
I don't know how to say that. Porphyria.
Sounds good. Sounds like I'd
Which
have a
makes
small...
one sensitive to sunlight.
Ah.
Well, that's me as well. Okay. Tuberculosis, which causes wasting. Pellagra, a disease which thins the skin. And rabies, which causes biting and general sensitivities that could lead to repulsion by light or garlic. Eat your garlic, people. It'll save you every time.
Now, Joanna, with that closed captioning that is coming across, that's actually nothing to do with us. That's to do with Facebook, and you can turn that off on your computer. It's just something that Facebook has implemented for all lives to try and help those who might be struggling a little bit with hearing, like myself.
I actually think it's a really good idea because it opens us up to a whole demographic that we couldn't have reached before. So thank you to closed captions, actually, because they love ghost hunting just as much as everybody else does. So vampire myths were especially popular in Eastern Europe, and the word vampire most likely originates from that region.
Oh, yes, Interview with a Vampire.
So digging up the bodies of suspected vampires was practiced in many cultures throughout Europe, and it is thought that natural characteristics of decomposition, such as receding gums and the appearance of growing hair and fingernails.
Oh, so with the gums receding, that makes it look like the teeth are getting longer.
Reinforce the belief that corpses were in fact continuing some manner of life after death. See, because, again, they didn't really understand what happened to a body after someone died.
So Elizabeth Bathory apparently is somebody that used to
Yes.
bathe in blood to look younger or
Yes,
something
absolutely. So because of the constraints of medical diagnosis at the time, people who were ill or sometimes even drunk or in a coma or in shock were thought to be dead and then later miraculously recovered.
Oh, so they rose from the dead.
And they scratched.
Oh,
And scratched.
that's
in
why they had the
coffin.
bells and
Yes.
the coffins.
So sometimes, yes, too late to prevent their burial. So,
Oh, and it's not reading night tonight. This is our education night. We'll enliven your brain cells.
we'll try anyway. So belief in vampires led to such rituals as staking the corpses through the heart. So if you weren't dead before, you were then, before they were buried. And in some cultures, the dead were buried face down to prevent them from finding their way out of the graves. I've heard that. Or they would put a rock, crack open the mouth, the jaw, and they'd stick a rock in. Delightful. Or they would cage the coffin. Now, in many cases, the caging of the coffin was really to prevent gravediggers from digging up a body. So if you're quite rich, you could afford to put a cage over the gravesite.
Mm-hmm.
But there was also this particular little myth that said you caged a vampire or a witch so that they would not rise again. Now, another word for a human who has risen from the dead and who has come back in our popular culture is zombie, but also the word revenant comes into play here. So revenants and the belief in them surged in Europe in the Middle Ages. And though in most modern stories the classic way to become a vampire is to be bitten by one, not often was that the only way. So there are a couple of different ways that you could have been cast as a vampire. And it was about some sort of abnormality or defect that was, you were genetically born with. So a child that was born with teeth was said to be a vampire.
Oh, wow. So if a baby was born with teeth.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember one of my children got teeth very young. Very, very young. Yes, Robin, I do think the pennies on the eyes were to pay the ferryman. That was their fee to cross the River Styx. Yeah.
So similarly suspicious were children who were born with an extra nipple, especially in Romania, a lack of cartilage in the nose, or a split lower lip in Russia. When a child was born with a red caul or the amniotic membrane covering its head, this was regarded throughout much of Europe as presumptive evidence that it was destined to return from the dead.
Oh, caul. Is that the caul when they have that over their head?
Yep. Where a lot of people think that it's actually good luck. And
that's
they
actually normally
keep the caul.
Normally the sign of being a psychic or something, or a gifted medium.
Yep.
From memory.
They were very good luck in countries where men specifically went off to sea, because if you were born with the caul, you were said to never drown in the ocean. So lots of great superstitions.
I thought psychic vampires. I thought it said psychic vaginas. I'm getting excited about my vaginas.
You can touch on the vampires. She'll be touching on vaginas. So even minor deformities would have been looked on as the devil's work, especially in medieval times. So, something was wrong with that poor child, and they were destined to have a horrible life, which is really, really sad.
Yes, and they quite possibly would have killed the children that had those sort of characteristics, or left them out in the forest to die.
Yeah, pretty awful.
Superstition does dreadful, dreadful things.
So the belief in vampires stems from superstitions and mistaken assumptions about post-mortem decay. The first recorded accounts of vampires follows a consistent pattern. Some unexplained misfortune would befall a person, family, or town. Perhaps a drought of dried up crops, an infection, a plague, and before science could explain weather patterns and germ theory, any bad event for which there was no obvious cause would probably be blamed on a vampire or on a witch, either. Yeah. Vampires were one easy answer to the age-old question of why bad things happen to good people. So villagers combined their belief with that something had cursed them with the fear of the dead, and concluded that perhaps the recently deceased might be responsible, having come back from the graves with evil intent. Graves were unearthed, and surprised villagers mistook ordinary decomposition processes the supernatural phenomenon. For
Do,
example,
do, 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 do.
though lay people might assume that a body would decompose immediately, if the coffin is well sealed and buried in winter, putrefaction might be delayed for weeks or months. Intestinal decomposition creates bloating, which can force blood up into the mouth, making it look like a dead body has recently sucked blood.
Oh!
These processes were well understood by modern doctors and morticians, but in medieval Europe were taken as unmistakable signs that vampires were real and existed amongst us.
But there are some people today who would still look at that and go, it's proof of vampires, or they've just drunk blood, because they don't learn. I just had, anyway, we won't go there, trying to educate people in those pages that,
No,
we
let's
won't go
keep
there.
talking about vampires.
Yeah.
So the best way to deal with vampires, of course, is to prevent them from coming back in the first place. So a few centuries ago in Europe, this was often accomplished by staking suspected vampires in their graves. The idea was to physically pin the vampire to the earth, and you had to use silver nails, because obviously silver is the thing that can't, detach them. The chest was chosen because it's the trunk of the body.
And you know why silver? Because silver can't be corrupted.
Ooh, there you go. The tradition was later reflected in popular fiction depicting wooden stakes as dispatching vampires. There was no particular significance to using wood.
I like that, and tying their shoelaces together.
According to folklore, vampires like
Garlic,
jinn or genies and many other magical
like
creatures fear iron, so an iron bar would be even more effective than a wooden stake. So other traditional methods of killing vampires included decapitation. You've seen all your vampire movies are coming back now, aren't they? And stuffing the severed head's mouth with garlic or a brick.
See, Carol was already on it. She got the garlic up.
In fact, suspected vampire graves have been found with such signs. According to a 2012 Live Science article, the body of a woman was found in a mass grave on the Venetian island of Nuovo Lazaretto. Suspecting that she might be a vampire, a common folk belief at the time, grave diggers had shoved a rock into her skull to prevent her from chewing through her shroud and infecting others with the plague.
People are so lovely.
So, yeah, just absolutely awful. So, if your local villagers neglected to unearth and stake a suspected vampire, he or she would return from the grave. Now, there are steps to protect you even if that happens. Yep, so the exact method varies around the world, but in some traditions, the best way to stop a vampire is to carry a small bag of salt with you. So next time you head to McDonald's,
I've got some on the table right there.
grab your little sachet of salt and just always have it in your pocket.
I like Mel's comment there. There's some people today who think they're vampires. Yeah, nothing says undead 400-year-old count like a 30-year-old male in a Victorian frock coat who lives with his mum.
Totally.
Oh, Mel, I love you.
So if you are being chased, you need only to spill the salt on the ground behind you, at which point the vampire is obligated to stop and count each and every grain before continuing the pursuit.
I'd heard that one before. You are all spilling like rice everywhere. They've got to stop and count. This is where we get Count Dracula. See? Count.
Birdseed or sand will do the same thing. So salt was often placed above and around doorways for the same reason. See, now we're cross-referencing that with ghostly encounters and hauntings. Placing salt on windowsills and around ledges. So are we stopping vampires or are we stopping ghosts? Are we stopping the same thing?
Well, the reason why salt was such a big thing is because it stopped decay. So they seemed to think it had magical powers. So you'd salt your meat when you'd put it away for winter, and it would last for the whole of winter because it would stop putrefaction.
Right.
So that's why they thought it was magical.
So some traditions hold the vampires cannot enter a home unless formally invited in. Oh, see, and now we're cross-referencing that too, because that has to do with the Men in Black See, they say
Oh, the
the same
Black-Eyed
thing with
Kids or something?
no,
No,
Men in Black. Men in Black who appear, and they often appear in vintage cars, and they're dressed in vintage clothing, but you can only
Vampires have
you can
OCD.
only can only be hurt by them if you invite them in. So it's just the whole folklore's myths thing. It really literally creeps into a whole lot of stuff that we believe in now as well. So some traditions hold that vampires, cannot enter a home unless formally invited in, and this may be an early form of modern stranger danger. So parents would say, don't invite strangers in. They could be a vampire, but it was a way of making sure that children did not open their doors to strangers. So, are there real vampires? So, a few truly vampiric animals do exist, like leeches, lampreys, and vampire bats.
Oh, leeches are just foul.
And in all of these cases, the vampire's intent is to draw enough blood for sustenance, but not enough to kill the hosts.
Oh, this is Christy. Anne Renata Good is Christy. She's our assistant. When we were driving back from Junee, Roman needed to go to the toilet rather urgently.
Let's not go there. It's all right. I'm continuing, people. Let's
and
ignore.
as he got out of the car, he trumpeted that he was leaving.
We were all very tired.
Windows down! Windows down! We laughed for a good half hour on that.
So there are certainly many self-identified vampires who participate in Gothic-inspired subcultures. And there are groups of these lovely people that get dressed up, file their teeth down, and drink blood on occasion.
Good on them. Makes them happy.
So some host vampire-themed book clubs or secret bloodletting rituals. Others wear capes or get vampire-famed dental implants and still live with their mother.
With a Victorian frock coat.
Thanks,
Mel.
yeah.
You're going to giggle from that one for hours.
There are a number of very famous vampire spots around the world, and if you kind of Google, you will get a list of the 10 hottest vampire spots to visit if you're a vampire aficionado. So, yes, go right ahead for that. But I found an interesting article dating back to the lovely daily Maitland Mercury, which is a township around us. And this goes back to 1925, and it reads The Deadly Vampire, Some Interesting Discoveries.
Oh.
And I'll just read a little bit of this because it talks about the real vampire bat. Yep. So after centuries of superstition about vampires current in every country of the world, science has finally ascertained the precise facts, says Science Siftings. As is frequently the case, the facts prove that many of these supposed superstitions are actually true. There are real vampire bats and real human vampires. A vampire is a bat or human being that derives its nourishment from sucking the blood of another living creature. Dr. August Krinholt of the German Academy of Science has just returned from South America, where he made an extended study of the nature and habits of vampire bats. He discovered that the true vampire is a monstrous blackish-brown bat with a wingspan of about 2 feet, with razor-sharp teeth and a hideous snout like a pig.
What's only about that big? It's not huge.
This bat flies chiefly at night, attacking sleeping animals and human beings, living almost entirely by sucking blood. He cites a specific instance of a young girl in Bolivia who was sleeping during the summer on the unscreened porch of her father's house.
It's an old newspaper. She's having trouble with the print.
By the merest accident, the father went on the porch just as dawn was lighting the sky. He saw the huge bat crouching against his sleeping daughter's shoulder, and knew it for what it was. He crushed it to death with his hands, and it was discovered that it had sucked almost a pint of blood from the girl, who had remained asleep while the bat had been engaged in its horrid task.
Oh, wow.
So there was another one that talks about frequently grazing horses are found in the Argentine in the morning with their shoulders covered with blood. And there was another story about how a farmer had to give up chicken farming and another pig farming because the vampire bats were sucking blood out of all of his animals. The true vampire bat is confined exclusively to South America, thank God, and tropical countries. It has been the source of mystery as to why people do not wake when attacked. The real facts are...
Do you think that would hurt?
But the upper front teeth of the vampire bat are enormously large and razor sharp, flat and in the shape obliquely triangular like small guillotines. The vampire, properly speaking, does not bite its victim. With its sharp, flat front teeth, it merely shaves off a thin portion of the skin, inflicting a wound similar to that occasionally caused by a razor when shaving, and practically painless. The vampire then applies its lips to the wound, which is little more than abrasion, and by sucking keeps up a constant flow of blood.
Now, I think I've got a picture here of, I don't know if it's going to let me zoom it out any bigger than that, though, it's just a problem. But you can actually see the, where's the angle?
Yeah.
See the little vampire teeth on it?
So, of course, one of the, and I'll finish up in just another minute.
Which means we're almost onto the vaginas.
So, one of the most famous cases in history was of Countess Báthory, who lived in Hungary about 300 years ago. She was a true vampire and she practiced black magic. So it was said that she kept her youthful glow because she used to murder her servants, female servants, and bathe in their blood. And she used to send out her staff to find peasant girls in the local village. And 4 or 5 or 6 girls needed to be blooded to fill a tub, and she would languish in it. And apparently that is what kept her young and beautiful. Nice. Do we like those stories? Sleep well, dear ones. Because, that's pretty spooky and horrible. But apparently every so often there will be a person who is mentally unwell and does believe that they have this specific need to go out and practice these vampiric desires. And therefore occasionally you will find stories of murder victims where they have had their blood drawn through biting.
Exsanguinated, is that the word?
Oh, I don't know that word. That's a big word.
Exsanguinated?
There was a case of this actually in Newcastle, New South Wales, back in the early 1900s. And it happened up the top end of Newcastle. And one of the stories that appeared in the paper was of the victim of the vampire, because allegedly they found huge marks on the body of the victim, and it appeared that blood had been sucked out of the body as part of the mutilation process.
Ooh.
So we don't have to go far, we can just go up the street.
Oh, yeah.
There's one there. Bang! And on that happy note, I will finish my half of this segment, and I know you guys are waiting for the second half with bated breath.
And that brings us to the end of vampires. But now we're going to move on to haunted vaginas. But before we do that, we've got to do a little bit of a plug. I'd also like to give a big shout out to Lawrence and Sylvia and Veronica and Sophia from Monte Cristo for the weekend. We had the best weekend, and the food, wow, it was actually really, really great. Loved it.
Yeah.
And it was nice to sort of do your entree main meal, go off, do a ghost tour, and come back and have dessert. And of course, we stayed in the actual Monte Cristo, the old part of the house, which is out the back, and got to do a bit of investigating there, which if you'd like to watch it, we have some live feeds that we did that are up on the Frightfully Good page, and there's some on Newcastle Ghost Tours as well.
Yeah, and look, I have read some comments from people who have said, well, we went to Monte Cristo and nothing happened and it's all hyped up and it's a whole lot of bullshit. You could say that about every single alleged haunted place all over the world. And just because you didn't have anything happen when you were there, you know, you're so special that you need to have a haunting just because you are present and things have to happen. It's not TV, guys. This is reality. And sometimes things just don't happen. And as I did say to someone when I replied to their comment, I said, you need to just be happy about the fact that you're in this magnificent place. You're enjoying the history and being in a place that you probably would never be able to live in. You're being served food that it has been made specifically for you. You have a comfortable bed and you have hours and hours of storytelling. And yet there are people still complaining, well, I didn't see a ghost because you know what? I paid my money and I should see a ghost because I demand it. Please get over yourselves, people. For fuck's sake.
Hey, you got the first fuck in! Woohoo!
It just shits me. It really does. These people, and not only Monte Cristo, but other people as well who run these amazing places, they turn themselves inside out to give people the best experience ever. And yet people will still walk away whinging and carrying on that something didn't suit them. Honestly.
There's also a very funny video in the live feed of Roman sitting against the wall going... He's falling asleep. It's really funny. Jodie said... anything happened in your room after you went to bed, Anne? No, he was too tired. No, we were so tired that we went to sleep and nothing really happened.
Bomb could have gone off. Although I do have to say that when we were going to sleep and we were in one of the rooms that has a lot of paranormal activity, a really weird gust of wind came through probably about 10 minutes after we went to bed, and it rattled all the windows. It moved everything along the wall that the breeze or the wind came through, and then it just disappeared. It was just this one huge gust of creepy, horrible wind.
And also take the time to go and see the doll museum that's there. Sylvia makes these amazing dolls, the Fairies Reborn, which are ever so slightly creepy. But then the girls also have their doll collection as well, which they have brought from their home country. And they had bags full of these dolls that they brought with them. And to hear the story of all of that was really quite fascinating.
Yeah.
So I think we need to get onto the haunted vagina. So hang with us while we do the introduction.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, we are back for the second half, the half that you have all been waiting for, of the ABC of Paranormal Strangeness here on Frightfully Good, and we are tackling the letter U. And the letter V, sorry.
Hang on. I'm on the wrong show.
The letter V. And my goodness, didn't we have a difficulty in trying to work out what we could talk about? So my topic was very, very easy. It was vampires.
And we were joking about vaginas. We thought,
As you do.
let's throw vaginas out there. And I had no intention of doing vaginas, but then we looked it up and went, holy moly, there is actually shit out there on vaginas. So...
Now, before you all get offended, hold on. Before you all get offended, this is your opportunity now to say bye-byes.
Yeah,
if you so wish.
You don't cope with feminine bits and pieces and boxes. It is time to turn off.
You may go. We will not get upset.
And there will be some rude stuff in here, I'm telling you now.
So tell the kiddies to go away. Tuck them into bed. Off you go. Tuck them in. We'll wait. Meanwhile, while they're all gone, Let's get cracking. Let's get cracking.
Oh my God, there's a wealth of information on vaginas and the paranormal out there.
I can't wait. Did you notice I've folded my legs? I've crossed my legs. Ladies, cross your legs.
She's excited.
Cross your legs.
So first off, I was sort of just typing in a haunted vagina, and then I thought, let's go for demonic vagina. Let's see what we can find on demons. And I actually came up with a great definition. A demon, so a vagina demon is a demon that lives inside a woman's vagina and prevents her from having intercourse, often by ripping off the male's penis and devouring it in the most bloody and violent way imaginable. For an example of the use of that word, don't touch Renata, she has vagina demons. I love urban dictionaries.
Well, I do too.
But, there's even some famous people that have had issues with their vaginas.
Yes, there are.
Now, Kesha,
Yes.
with a $ in her name.
Mm-hmm. Cash $, huh?
Yeah. Now, she told Jimmy Kimmel that her genitalia might be haunted during an appearance on his show.
She did.
She's 26-year-old at the time, and was doing the documentary series My Crazy Beautiful Life, and somehow got onto the topic of ghoulish genitals. When the ghost haunts my vagina, yeah, you're all laughing, but it's very serious, she said. It's a problem. I know it sounds ridiculous, but in all honesty, I believe in all this crazy shit. So I was told I had dead people in me, so I called my... Now, who would you call?
Medium, psychic medium.
Oh, no. She called
Exorcist.
her hypnotherapist.
Oh. Right.
And so then she said that she had to exorcise my body. Mm-hmm. Just to prove that her vagina was haunted. Now, this is absolute proof. She got a ghost meter.
They're all running. They're all running for their K2s. Right now, I can see it. There's an avalanche of
And
rats.
as she pointed the K2 towards her vagina, it beat. It was half off. It was awesome. It seemed to be accurate.
I want you all to sit there and say, go to the red. Go to the red.
All right. No, we can do this. We can do this. All right.
Oh my gosh. All right,
No,
let's
hang
go.
on.
I've got it.
It seemed to be accurate because I have been going through a dry spell. And it was like beeping around and making sense now.
Right. Well, was it answering questions?
Kimmel replied to her, well, I'm glad you figured it out. But Kesha wasn't finished. She had more to add to the story. I had camera people following me around last night when I was dancing and acting like an idiot. Fancy that.
It's amazing.
So there's some of that, as always. Some twerking upside down. There's sharks involved. Me in the water, no cage. It's just mayhem, she said. This is all because of her haunted vagina. It's scary because it's so real. I don't have hair and makeup every day, so there's definitely times where I don't have a bra on.
What's it got to do with anything?
And I just look bad, straight up terrible. But I think that's right. You've got to show it.
None of that makes sense.
I know.
None of that
She
makes
must
sense.
have been off her tits. Anyway, let me. I've got so much material
I've
here.
got a headache. I've got a headache.
Just to give that look. We even found. I'm not even trying. I haven't got to the good stuff yet. Do you know there's even some books with amazing plot lines? The Haunted Vagina by Carlton Mellick III. Make sure you get it right, not the second, it's the third.
Right, go ahead.
Now look, wait till you hear the synopsis of the story. It's going to draw you in. You're going to want this one.
Right.
It's difficult to love a woman whose vagina is a gateway to the underworld of the dead. Mm-hmm. Steve is madly in love with his eccentric girlfriend Stacy. Unfortunately, their sex life has been suffering as of late because Steve is worried about the odd noises that have been coming from Stacy's pubic area. She says that
we're going to put a link up, people,
Yep.
to this one.
Yep.
We'll put a link.
She says that her vagina is haunted. She doesn't think it's a big deal. But Steve, on the other hand, completely disagrees. Well, I suppose he's the one that has to take the risk.
Right.
When a living corpse climbs out of her during an awkward night of sex,
Right.
Stacey learns that her vagina is actually a doorway to another world. She persuades Steve to climb inside of her to explore this strange new place. But once inside, Stephen finds it difficult to return, especially once he meets an oddly attractive woman named Fig, who lives within the lonely, haunted world between Stacey's legs.
This is for real, people. This is a book that's been written.
Riveting.
It's like...
Where do I go from there?
I can imagine the title of the chapter.
All right. Let's go to I've got to make sure I get...
You can literally find everything on Google. Absolutely everything.
You're not wrong. All right, so this is another one. A therapist told me I had a demon in my vagina. So this is the chronicles of a person that had endometriosis, which is nothing to laugh about.
No,
That's
it's not at all.
horrible. So this particular lady is she's not one who thinks about the spiritual health of her vagina. Maybe some people do, but it's never been high on her list of concerns. Despite all of this, she recently found herself spread-eagled on a massage table in Thailand with a tiny middle-aged woman in cargo pants went elbow deep into her sweaty chakra. I like the description of it. So basically, she's had a lot of health issues in her life. She's had, as she calls it, fucked lungs, chest infections, bout of arthritis in her face, and she's had endometriosis since puberty. She had erratic, painful periods. Oh, boys, we're speaking about that bloody mess. Watch out. And that no doctor, pill or surgery could help her, not even a water bottle. Anyway, so she went over there for a wedding with a friend, and they decided to go to this retreat place and have this relaxation, and they found this Chai Cheng Ni health practitioner who wanted to realign the flow of chi in her body. And they said that they needed to massage the sexual organs to be able to help release this demon. Mrs. Timmy dressed like a Brad Pitt era Jennifer Aniston, but any soothing feelings I received from her friends vibe was dispersed when she announced that there was a demon living under my modern Brazilian, and with that Mrs. Timmy set about exercising my vagina. The treatment started off normal enough. She got on the table and held me, and we rocked back and forth together. Then she got out a tiny hammer and tapped it all over my body.
Oh, okay.
Then she began stabbing her finger repeatedly deeply into my belly button, which felt weird and kind of painful. Given how uncomfortable this was, it was almost a relief when she stuck her digits in me. I did wonder for a moment if this was the whole deal, getting me off to distract me from the fact a stranger was digging her hand inside my vagina. For the record, having a stranger perform pressure point therapy on your cervix isn't much worse than a pap smear. If I focus on the spiritual aspect, it was just like someone ringing the gong at the end of yoga, only inside of me. I've since described it to friends using a lot of hand motions and Boy Scout salutes. Best I can explain is that like a masseuse digs their fingers firmly into your armpits with one obvious difference. The treatment ended with a vigorous lower stomach massage that felt like the scene in Indiana Jones when the baddie twists the hearts out of the human sacrifices, just with my ovaries in place of a beating human heart. When she was finished rearranging my insides, Mrs. Timmy stood silently for several minutes with her hands on my stomach and her eyes closed. Then she sat me up and said, "You're fixed." In all seriousness, that woman knew how to banish vagina spirits. I marvelled as she held out my undies for me to step into. For days afterwards, I had the most magical sensation that my entire torso was floating. Even now, a few weeks after her special touch, my whole system still feels amazingly light. My periods have been miraculously free of pain. Of course, most importantly, on my return, everyone told me I looked great and remarked on my glow.
Oh, what can you say?
They got me to...
If it works.
She fished around up there and grabbed it and pulled it out. Bless Mrs. Timmy.
If it works.
All right.
Go for it.
Where are we up to? That's that one. Now look, there's another book.
We have to do more.
Oh, there's a little bit more to go.
We
I've only
are
been
going
going for 12 minutes. Come on, fair go.
We are going to be so slaughtered.
This is serious stuff.
People are just going to kill us for this.
Now look, Mel just said it's add herbs. It'll just be like stuffing a turkey. All right. Now, I managed to combine. Are you ready for it?
No.
Vampires,
All right. This is a double V.
vaginas, and vegans.
Of course.
We won't go. I was going to ask a question there. Best I don't do that.
No, you don't.
So this is a book by Volvery. And it's called Vegan Vampire Vaginas. Now, oh my God.
We'll put a link up.
Wait till you see the storyline on this one. You'll be rushing out to your e-books and grabbing it.
Have we got any sad faces yet?
No angry faces. Lots of laughter. This is what I like. So here's the synopsis. The biggest bank heist in US history. And Tom Palmer can't remember pulling it off. And no, this isn't your standard case of amnesia. After a one-night stand goes horribly wrong, Boston salesman Tom Palmer wakes up with a vagina implanted in his left hand. I know what most men would do straight away. Then his day gets worse.
Okay.
Tom is transported across space-time to a nightmare version of Boston, one where the bizarro virus has transformed half the population into cannibals. Oh, they're going to be eating out the palm of his hand. Yeah, I went there. Worst of all, Tom discovers that in his new Boston is... All right, pull it together, Anne.
So the link's up. Thank you very much.
He's the infamous gangster, Pussy Palm, wanted for robbing the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston a year ago. He also learns that the vagina in his hand is prophetic. It talks after having sex. With 130 people left dead during the bank heist and $6 billion missing, Tom knows he's living on borrowed time. It is in his best interest not to remember anything, but once he does... But then everything gets so much odder. Tom begins remembering what has to be someone else's life. Or is it? Can't wait to read that. Last story.
Thank God.
Oh, do you have... Oh, we can do this. Do you have demons in your vagina? This is from Mamma Mia.
Oh,
You know it's going to be good.
It is.
Do you ever take off your underwear to find little scorch marks on the crotch region? I could do this.
Where do you find these juices?
Oh, researching. I'm such a researcher.
I can't.
Oh, it gets worse.
Right, okay.
Do you ever feel itchy or uncomfortable down there? And not like the thrush kind of uncomfortable.
This smells like my mother.
Stop it! I have to be able to read. I can't read.
Don't ever buy these. Just don't. Don't buy these.
They're on
ones.
special.
They smell like frangipani.
Let me get through this
They
article.
remind you of your 85-year-old grandmother. That's all.
Okay, so we're down there. Not like the thrush kind of uncomfortable. There could be a dark spirit in my nether regions kind of uncomfortable. Do you ever hear voices whispering strange things to you in the middle of the night? Have you been attracting significant amounts of bad luck in your life, and particularly in the bedroom? Do you have a vengeful ex-boyfriend or crush that is particularly proficient with curses?
Yoga helps. Thank you, Mel.
The cause? You have demons in your vagina.
Can't hold it together. All right. Okay. Keep going. Keep going. We can do this.
It's moving all phlegm I ever had in my chest for the last 20 years out. That's right, vagina demons are a thing. No longer content to exist in old fireplaces or gravestones or, hell, they're crawling to the warm, safe region that is just past your vulva. That's right. Because there's no need to worry, because for a small price of just $3,300, your vagina demons can be exorcised so that they never bother you again.
I've got a new. There's a position in this. There's a job in this. Seriously. People.
That's not all. The first 300 callers will get an actual Taoist priest as their exorcist to guarantee the greatest methods of success. Taoist priest, I hope I'm saying that right. Taoist priests have special supernatural powers and are much more effective than, regular priests. It's so fast and easy. All you need to do is find yourself a hotel room, dress yourself in lingerie, and allow your body to be examined closely with a penis. I see nothing suspicious here. Call 1-800-EXERCISE-ME and have your credit card ready to order now. Or, don't, because vagina demons are kind of messed up concept. What? So, you may think that we're making this up, but in what might just be the craziest news story to come out of Guangzhou, China recently, all of the above actually happened to a woman working in a feng shui store. A man actually came in pretending to be a Taoist priest and told her that he saw a demon in her vagina. He told her that it was part of a curse placed on her by the object of her affection and that only he could remove it. $3,300 later and a rented hotel room, the priest had sex with the woman after telling her that it would be the only thing to get rid of the demon. But that wouldn't count because he was wearing a condom. Taoist priest cannot have sex, and therefore he wasn't having sex. That's like saying you're a vegetarian, therefore eating meat doesn't mean that you're eating meat. Anyway, while the woman originally agreed to the terms believing that he was an actual priest that knew what he was going on about, she later became suspicious. She's a clever cookie. And reported the fake exorcism to the police. The priest is now claiming innocence based on the idea that there are things that metaphysics and science cannot explain.
And this is why, ladies and gentlemen, this community has a bad reputation.
Because of my stories. So, I now have a short video for you.
Oh, God. Oh, my God, no. Please.
And sadly, we don't have sound, so I will try to voice it for you.
Oh, no.
But luckily, there are subtitles, so we can follow it. So I do need to change screens now. And please, I'm not being offensive to anyone. This
Brace
is
yourselves.
a video on YouTube
Brace yourselves,
for
people.
everyone. There's something to learn for everyone. So I'm just going to switch out screens. So let me jump to here and go to there.
Oops. No.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
So this poor woman is going to have a deliverance of evil spirits. So, as I said, I will voice it. Now, just take notice of that poor woman up the back who's thinking, dang, I didn't think of this one. I wish I'd thought of this one. It's good. All right, so Demon came with his penis and put it in my mouth. And then he came again and he slept with me last week, and I told the pastor I need deliverance again, and since then my private parts have been itching me. Oh, you silly bitch. Look, that demon. Look, oral sex. Oral sex, let me just say. Look, oral sex. Look, you oral sex. Use oral sex. Let the sperm out, that man. Out, you demon, out. Oh, now he's got a special spray here. Demon in the private parts. Watch what happens. Now, look. She's got the jiggies up. It's the twerking that's happening. That's burning her bits. And oh, devil, come out from the private. Come out from the private. Oh, it's burning. Oh, I think she go. Oh, she's gonna go. Oh no.
Down we go.
Wow, wasn't that just amazing? Let me get out of that.
Did you see what I just saw? That
That's them fresh.
that was horrifying.
Yeah,
That was horrifying.
she had the itchies down there, and obviously it was the demon.
I've never seen anything like that in my life.
Yep. Yes, that was a real video. That really happened. So I just wanted to share that real exorcism with you because I thought, we can all learn something from that. Anyway, that brings us to the end of the haunted vaginas, demonic vaginas, and the vegan vampire vaginas. I hope you enjoyed it.
Have you learned something, kiddies?
I stopped the recording now.
Yeah. Did you learn something tonight, kiddies? That's the most important thing. And please, don't all send your offensive emails to us at once.
Yes, Valerie is speechless. Yep. I put in exorcism of vaginas, and that's what I typed in, and sure enough, up it popped. It's amazing what's out there in the world. Oh yes, after you bikini wax the itchy demons as well. I don't think Renata's going to recover from this one for a while.
And as I said before, we tackle the subjects that no one else will touch because we can. Because
no one's going to touch a haunted vagina.
No, absolutely not. And yeah, these things are real and they are out there, and
people believe them.
People believe them, and yes, you can buy the books and all of that. It exists, and this is modern day mythology, and this is modern day folklore, and and this is horrendous, but it is out there, and we can laugh as much as we like, but there are certainly people who believe that this is happening and that those sorts of things can rid us of the pain and the tragedy that is in our lives. And unfortunately there are some people out there that make loads of money on this. So we kind of just say to you all, just be aware. Be aware of what you're told. Be aware of what you read. Be aware of, unless you really like stories about haunted vaginas, and we have put the links up. Yeah, it's a crazy, crazy world that we live in. And yeah, we meant no disrespect to anyone or anything, just everything in general, actually, because is just all too crazy sometimes. And I think we all needed a good laugh tonight, at nobody's expense, but our own.
Yep.
So, like I said, if you're going to send us nasty emails,
Oh, they won't. They love. There's not even an angry face up. Valerie, you avoided the angry face this week. Well done, love.
Yeah.
Anyway, everyone's enjoyed the laugh. That is it from us tonight. But if you can join us at 11 a.m. tomorrow, we'll have our serious faces on as we talk to. Now, I'm just going to pop this up here, Renata.
Yep.
The wizard, like a real wizard, Oberon Zell Ravenheart, and he is one of the respected elders in the pagan community. We will be on Spirit Talk Australia talking to him tomorrow at 11. We can't do them at night, these interviews, because we are generally speaking to people in America or Europe or England, so we have to do it at a time suitable for them, and we're not prepared to get up at 3 a.m. in the morning to do them.
Yep.
No. So, if you can join us, if not, it is recorded, and I strongly recommend you watch later on. If you missed the one with Tony Rotunda last week, that was fantastic as well. We are so privileged that our mentor, Lady Tamara, is putting us in touch with all these amazing people. We're just
And there will be
floored.
more as the weeks come on. We've got amazing people, amazing authors, amazing people from all over the world that have spent their lifetimes living their life as best that they can, to their faith and to their beliefs, and really exploring the metaphysical and the spiritual side. And there is just an amazing amount of connection that can be made between what we love, which is ghosts, the paranormal, and all things ooky and spooky, and some of the things that are going on kind of on a real esoteric level. So it's
we had
all
to
interconnected.
mention Queensland too.
Yes. We've got a little bit of research happening at the moment, guys. So we are really, really, really into researching all things poltergeisty and haunted
homes.
Yeah,
and
because
haunted,
we want to see how that all comes
businesses.
together. Yep. So what we are after is we are after people in the Brisbane Gold Coast area who may have some haunting activities occurring in their home.
We'd love to have a chat to them.
We'd love to have a chat with you and see if we could come to some conclusions.
Yeah.
And if you know someone who is having difficulty or trouble, or if you yourself may be living in a haunted house, reach out to us. We've got some links up on our pages, and we will be in contact with you because we would love to research and explore this whole phenomena more. But as things go, you need somewhere that is haunted, truly haunted, to go out and explore. So please let us know. Yep. And
we'll put you in contact with Connor, who is helping us out with this one.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed tonight's show. Please give us a thumbs up. Make sure you've liked our page and that you are following us. We've almost cracked the 7,000. I'm very excited. I want to be able to hit that 7,000 mark. We'll be on tomorrow on Spirit Talk Australia, back on here on Thursday night at 8:30 for
Tarot time. And if you are a member of the Australian School of Ghost Hunting and you have paid for the protection class, it is class number 2 tomorrow night.
And we will have a class coming up on sigils, which will just be a one night class, and then we'll also be doing a oracle card workshop online as well. Absolutely. So keep an eye on the Australian School of Ghost Hunting as well. So thank you all for joining us this evening. We love you all, and we'll see you all on the dark side. Bye, Parastalkers.